What happens to subject to? Yeah, you're subject to home in a recession. When the next recession comes, and I'm telling you, it's gonna come and it's probably gonna come pretty soon. What happens to all these properties that were bought subject to? What happens to you? What happens to people like Pace Morby? Let me tell you, it's not going to be good. Subject to is going to get wrecked in the next recession. Let me explain to you how you can protect yourself from losing money in the next recession if you're a subject to investor, but also how you can make so much money in the next recession. Okay, let's just get something straight first. We all know what subject to is, but just to be sure, subject to is when you buy a house not with cash, or you don't go out and get a mortgage from a bank to buy the house. No, you just take over the seller's mortgage payments. The seller has a mortgage and you don't go get a new loan to pay off their loan. You just go up to them and you're like, hey, can I just take over your loan payments? And the big catch with subject to is that we look for low interest rates. You see right here, you had me at 3% interest rate. We're looking for interest rates in the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s. Because today, interest rates are 6, 7, 8%. So we can make a huge spread by buying low interest rate homes when everybody else is buying high interest rate homes. But in the next recession, not only are home prices going to go down, interest rates are going to go down too. Yes, you heard me right. You may think otherwise, but I'm sorry, you are completely wrong. In the next recession, home prices are going to go down, but interest rates are going to go down. Interest rates go down in recessions. You may think that's impossible because if interest rates go down, home prices will go up. No, just look at history. I mean, just look at the charts. Recession, interest rates start to go down. Recession, interest rates down. Recession, interest rates down. Recession, down. Recession, down, down. Interest rates go down in a recession. And I'm not going to explain to you the whole macroeconomic reason why, but just pretty much know that the Federal Reserve, they are incompetent. Jerome Powell, all these economist losers, they are incompetent. They're always behind the curve. And when they are behind the curve, they drop interest rates to zero in a quick panic, but it is too late and the economy is already in a recession. So by the time interest rates are low, by the time they're the 3 or 4% for mortgages, the economy is already in the gutter. And it takes a few years. It's going to take 2-3 years to get out of it. Now, during that time, that's an incredible buying opportunity. But what we're talking about in this video really is how is subject to affected in that downturn. So let me explain. I want you to imagine a house that you buy subject to like a treasury bond, like a US government bond. Now, I don't know how much you know about bond math, but I think you remember the banking crisis that happened last year. Remember with Silicon Valley Bank? All these banks went under. Imagine those banks are subject to investors. The reason why these banks fail is that they bought long-term bonds and the interest rates went up on them. And how bonds and interest rates are related is that the value of a bond goes down when interest rates go up. It's an inverted relationship. I know this is a little bit confusing, but just think about it. If you're loaning money to your friend, you're loaning your friend $100 and he's going to pay you back $101 next year, 1% interest. But now interest rates are 2%, so you can go and make $102 or $2. Is it still worth it to you to lend to your friend at 1% and only make $1? No, you would need to lend like $99 in order to make $101, right? You need to make $2. And that's the same thing that happens with the bond. When interest rates go up, the value of your bond goes down. It goes from 99, 98, 97, 96, 95. Before you know it's at $80. Then it's at $70. That's $60. And that's what happened to these banks. They all failed because their bond value went down. And subject to is the same thing, just the inverse. Okay, so here I'm gonna draw this out for you guys because I don't want y'all to be confused. Here's your house. It's a beautiful house and it has a 3% interest rate. You bought this house subject to with a 3% rate. That is awesome. But right now, interest rates, they're not 3%. They're not 4% or 5%. Right now, interest rates in the market are 8%. This house is worth a lot more because the house you own is not just the house, it's the rate, it's the loan you're paying. So imagine you're paying, I don't know, $2,000 a month. And if someone bought it for 8%, they'd have to pay $4,000 a month. This is an asset you own right here. That's an asset that's worth a lot. Investors like you or me will pay a premium to get the house with 3% interest, right? I'd much rather get the house with 3% interest than 8% interest. I can save $2,000 a month. That's worth something to somebody. That's worth a premium. This house with a 3% interest is worth more than it is at 8%. So if rates go to 9%, or I don't know if they go to 10%, what happens to the value of your loan at 3%? It just goes up. Your sub 2 house is worth more money. Even if the home is not appreciating, even if the home is the same price on the market, let's say it's 300,000 on the market, it's still worth more because this loan becomes more valuable. An investor will pay more for this loan because they are going to be cash flowing more than if they were to buy it cash. Does that make sense? It's really interesting when you start to think of subject to, when you start to think of houses as just loans, and you start to think as rates going up and down as affecting the value of your loan, just like bonds, just like we talked about. But all of this is the problem with sub 2 in a recession. Are you ready, everybody? This is the big kicker. When rates go down, your value of your loan becomes worth less. Not worthless, but worth less. This 3% loan that you bought sub 2, when the market rates were 8%, well, guess what? Now the market rates fell to 4%, and you have your loan at 3%. I mean, it's better. But is it that much better? It's not that much better. But you're probably thinking, who cares, Max? Who cares? I have a 3% loan. 3% will always be good. Even if rates are 4%, my 3% is better. I don't care. What's the point of this video? Okay, sure, maybe the value of my loan to an investor is not worth as much, right? Before it was worth more at 3%. Now, if everybody can get a 4% loan, it's not worth that much on the secondary market. But I don't really care. Well, let me explain to you why you should care. More so, let me explain to you why people like Pace Morby could be in huge financial destruction if they keep going the way they're going. Okay, Pace Morby's gonna be fine because he has a lot of businesses and income to support him, even if he's underwater temporarily. But regular people, or even very high net worth investors, they're over leveraged and don't have the income to support them when things go south. And that becomes a 2008 scenario where you start to see bankruptcies. You start to see people that were worth $100 million and the next day they are worth zero. And you're like, how the heck did that happen? Well, it's because of this. It's because of this. You ready? I'm going to show you how subject to gets really bad in a recession. I want you to watch this. This is really, really important. Hey, how are y'all doing? Oh, wait, I don't know because none of you comment. Comment, tell me how you're doing. Say, hey, Max, this is a great video, or Max, you suck. Leave a comment. And while you're commenting, also hit that subscribe button. Not enough of you are subscribed. I mean, why not subscribe to this channel? It's free content. There's not a lot of creative finance content out there. There's me, and there's a few other people. Maybe you've heard of Pace Morby. I've never heard of him. He makes some pretty good content, but I make some good content too. So you should subscribe. Man, I can't stress this enough. I am so worried this is going to be so bad in the next recession. People are going to lose their shirts and their shorts and their socks too. Here's a house, okay? You paid a nice $500,000 for this house. Between us, the fair market value of this house is actually $450,000, but you paid $500,000. You overpaid for the property, and you also paid things like, closing costs and assignment fees. And I don't know, and agent commissions, right? You were told, you said the dream is to buy rates. You don't buy equity. You don't care about equity. Well, look at me, Max. I got a nice 2.75% interest rate. Yeah, I overpaid $50,000 for the property, but who cares? Look at my beautiful rate, right? You were sold that dream. And that dream is okay until it's not. If you're a long-term investor and you have the finances to weather out a bad recession, well then yeah, this works. You will be okay. But for a lot of people, this is not a good situation to be in. So you're already negative equity, right? You're already negative equity $50,000. And that's when the market's at its best. So let's talk about a recession now. Okay, let's just say it's a very easygoing recession. House prices only come down, I don't know, we're going to say home prices only come down 20%. That's very realistic. Austin, Texas already had a pretty much a 20% fall in real estate. It bounced back a little bit, but we almost saw a 20% fall in some areas. This is not out of the ordinary. I mean, in 2008, we saw prices go down 50 or 60%. So to say that 20% is not possible, you are delirious. You are delirious. Home prices don't double or triple, then don't go down 20%. We could see a 20% recession. So, okay, so now It was 450, but now it's worth what? The home is now worth $360,000. That means you are down in equity. You are now down $140,000. But you don't care. That's all paper. That's on paper. That's not real money, Max. I'm not selling my house. I'm holding on for the long term. The home price is bound to go back up. Yes, that's true. That is true. But let me explain to you why that may not just be the case. Because what else happens in recession, right? Well, rent prices are going to come down a little bit. I don't think they're going to come down much, but they're going to come down a little bit. So let's say there's a 10% drop in rent price. So rents come down 10%. Okay. So let's say your rents before you were getting, I don't know, $3,000 in rent. And now you're getting, I don't know, $2,700 in rent. Okay, so you feel that a little bit. You just lost $300 of cash flow. But what really hurts, here's the kicker, is that rates come down. They come down. Remember we talked about rates come down in the recession. Rates come down. Jerome Powell slams interest rates to zero again. You can now get a mortgage at 3% once again. So now there are people who can buy this house that you paid $500,000 for a 2.75% rate for 360 grand, $140,000 less, and they can pretty much get the same mortgage. So what benefit do you have for overpaying for your home? Nothing. People are getting the same rate as you, and they paid less for the property. Now imagine, I don't know, like these sub 2 investors I see in these groups, they're taking over property sub 2, not even at good rates. Like, what are they doing? They're taking over property sub 2 at like 6% interest rates. I'm like, great job, but you also overpaid. So I'm so pissed right now. So it's a scale. At the very least, if you're going to get a very low interest rate, at least it's okay to overpay a little bit. Just know you may get screwed in the next recession if you can't hold on. If you can hold on and weather the storm, you will be in okay shape. I'll talk about in a second why you may not be able to hold on. But if you can hold on, you may be in okay shape. But like, bro, don't overpay for a property and get a shitty rate. Like, what are you doing? But anyways, can we just quickly just understand? Okay, I just want to summarize what I was talking about. I'm going to calm down. I just want to summarize what I'm talking about. What happens to sub 2 investors in a recession? Well, it's not good because all of you sub 2 investors are so proud of your interest rates. You guys all get massive hard-ons over your interest rates. You guys are all interest rates. I buy interest rates. I buy interest rates. Well, what the do you think happens in a recession? Interest rates come down, right? So the value of properties come down and the rates come down. So your expensive ass little house, this expensive house that you have a beautiful, I don't know, 4.2% rate on that you're so proud of because everybody else is getting 8% rates. Well, what happens now when rates fall back down to that? You overpaid for a property. Now the property's worth less and everybody else can get the same rate. You better hope you can hold on. But if rents also fall and you're doing some stupid shit, you're doing stupid shit. You're like, oh, but bro, I'm cash flowing so hard as an Airbnb. Look at my Airbnb returns. No, I have a midterm rental and it's sober living. Or I don't know, you're doing traveling nurse housing. Anyways, you're not doing a long-term rental. You're doing something that's not a long-term rental. It's not steady. In a recession, some of these things may also go to the gutter, okay? And if you're doing wraps and you're so confident about your wrap, well, what about bankruptcies? All of this is possible and nobody is talking about it because we've lived in la la land where the economy's been so good, on paper at least, and real estate's been so good. But all of these sub 2 freaks, I love you guys. I'm one of you. You guys got to be careful. Be more conservative because in a recession, your cash flow is going to go down, right? Your cash flow is going to go down. The value of your property values is going to go down. And the value of your sub 2 rate, your beautiful sub 2 rate, is gonna go down. So what did you just pay more money for? Garbage. You paid more money for garbage. So I'm going to calm down here and just tell you guys what to look for. So, going forward, what you want to look for is when you buy a property subject to, everybody, be careful when you overpay. Try not to overpay too much. If you're going to overpay, make sure that it cash flows as a long term rental. Make sure that you don't need to get rid of this property. Not only that, but make sure there's going to be occupancy in the next recession. Make sure that not only cash flows as a long term rental, it cash flows a lot, right? Maybe you have a 10 or 20% spread in your cash flow after maintenance and capital expenditures. Like, make sure you're covered. Or if not, make sure you can at least afford the hit. In case rents come down in a recession, at least make sure you can afford to be in the negative for 2, 3, 4 years, right? Be careful, be very careful overpaying for a subject to property just to get a cheap rate, to get a shitty property that has shitty resale value, and you're renting it shittily as a shitty Airbnb. And then in the next recession, when shit hits the fan, your shitty property is also a shittier Airbnb and you can't get any rents for it. And the price comes down and the interest rate's not that sexy anymore because rates are down. You can understand the big issue here. You will be no different than Silicon Valley Bank. You'll go up in flames. So, my long term rant is to buy quality properties subject to. Look for quality, right? Also, look for equity. Look for anywhere you can add equity. That's called a wedge deal, I believe. Look for places you can add equity. Maybe you can make another bedroom or fix up a bathroom and you can add instant equity or you can add equity. Look for equity adds, everybody. Even if it means paying a little bit more on the rates. I'd rather pay a 4% interest rate and get a quality property that's a nice cash flowing long term rental than getting a weird bastardized 3% weird property. I don't know. Like, rate is not everything. Rate is not everything. Does this video help you guys? I really hope it does. I'm really worried about what I see going on in the sub 2 community. I mean, not only is regulation going to come because people are acting out of line and just taking advantage of people, which is just so sad to see. It's just that in the next recession, so many sub 2 investors are going to go bankrupt. And the issue is, do you go bankrupt or the person you took the loan from subject to? They still hold that debt. It's going to be a nightmare. Regulation is going to come. And it's because you investors, and I'm not just saying you, maybe you're smart, but just the investors in general are not being conservative. And we are all going to get an ass whooping when that time comes, when that recession inevitably comes. That's my big rant. Peace out, guys. Love you. Bye.